Hello, and welcome to the British Cartographic Society's Teatime Talk series. My name is Christopher Budis. I am the coordinator for the Teatime Talks, and I will be today's chair. This series aims to offer a broad and wide range of short talks on topics that will be of interest to the community. Today we have the pleasure of a talk from Ed Beddows from GIS-E. Ed recently graduated from Durham University, where he studied geography with a particular focus on remote sensing, GIS and peatlands ecosystems. Following his studies, he worked for the WWF in Scotland and has spent the last year based in Zambia conducting environmental impact assessments for a national scale development infrastructure project. Ed co-founded GIS-E in 2019 and leads a working group on wetland ecosystems for the Ecosystem Services Partnership. Finally, Ed will be moving into the public sector at the end of this year, where he will join the civil service fast stream. Today's talk will look at GIS-E, the power of cartography to drive positive change. GIS-E is a startup NGO with the mission to provide cartographic information that drives positive change. It provides maps that clearly and professionally communicate essential information for NGOs supporting operations, funding bids, websites and outreach. They are a small, dynamic and 21st century non-profit with an international volunteer team ranging from undergraduate students to retired GIS professionals, all using their diverse mapping skills to help NGOs break barriers and change the world. We will now hear about GIS-E, explore how cartography can drive positive change, and how you might be able to help them on their mission. I would now like to pass you over to Ed.
Thanks for the introduction, Christopher. Hi everyone, delighted to be speaking this evening. Thank you very much to the British Cartographic Society for the invitation, and especially to Paul Naylor, who first reached out to me and the team about this. I've really enjoyed the first couple of talks of the Teatime Talk series. The diversity has been fascinating, and I really hope this talk contributes to that and really embodies that diversity. So the first part of the presentation will look at how cartography can help NGOs communicate their work and impact more effectively. The second part will introduce GIS-E, a startup NGO harnessing the power of maps to help NGOs around the world. And the final part will ask for your help on our mission. So most of you, if not all of you, will have heard of the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It's the blueprint for a more prosperous and peaceful world globally. And it's based around the 17 goals you can see on the screen. Now more than ever, with the global pandemic, it's vital to integrate these goals into policy, into business models, and really to support the organizations that are taking inspiring steps to achieve them. The goals are being tackled by a global network of players, and key to this are NGOs, both big and small. NGOs in general face three common challenges, and not overcoming these challenges ultimately could be the difference between achieving a goal and not achieving one of those goals. The first one is funding. It's the lifeblood of any NGO, and as anyone who's involved in an NGO will know, it's always limited. Without funding, you can't survive and you can't carry out the impactful work that you're doing. Linked to that first challenge is communication. And in a resource-limited world, many NGOs just don't have the capacity or the skills to effectively and professionally communicate the value of their work. And that makes it hard to access funding, projects and partnerships. The final challenge is strategy. And again, it's linked to the other two. if you can't communicate your strategy to external stakeholders and your team, then the impact of your work is going to be compromised. So how can NGOs overcome this? And this is where cartography can help. Imagine an NGO submitting a funding bid to the United Nations, which could help provide healthcare to hundreds of indigenous people in rural Zambia, let's say Guatemala. Unfortunately, the application might not get the attention it deserves because it's supported by a mass of random numbers and unfamiliar locations. Take another example. You might at first be engaged by an NGO describing the life-changing work they do to empower vulnerable girls in Angola, only to lose interest when they use a low-res Google Maps screenshot to show where their working, where their projects are on the ground. It doesn't give a professional image, and honestly, a Google Maps screenshot really is the reality of many NGOs' communication methods. So cartography has the ability to overcome some of these challenges. It complements, but also goes beyond text, stats, and images. And it helps NGOs effectively communicate the impact of their work, the challenges they're tackling to potential funders, volunteers, partners, and networks. So this brings me to the second part, where I can introduce GIS-E, a startup nonprofit on a mapping mission to drive positive change. GIS-E was co-founded, as Christopher said, in 2019 by myself and Tom. And we started it when we were in our last year of university. Having both studied geography with a focus in GIS and remote sensing, we had all these skills and we really wanted to put them to good use. And having volunteered and interned in various NGOs in different countries, we were well aware of the challenges that many NGOs face when trying to communicate their work. So I guess putting the two and two together, we started getting in touch with old contacts and asking if they wanted any maps. Cutting not a very long story short, because we've only been around for a year and a half, GIS-E now consists of a team of over 20 volunteers from 9 different countries. We've worked with 26 organizations doing some incredible work around the world. And I guess the number of talks count does sum up how young, new, and small we really still are. This is the first one. So we're growing rapidly at the moment, and we're at a really exciting point of our journey. So what is GIS-E? Well, looking on the right of this slide, we're a startup nonprofit and really embody a kind of startup culture with an agile and exciting way of working. We're completely run by volunteers, who I'll introduce later. And we partner with NGOs, working in all sorts of things to try and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, providing them with free cartography and free maps. So how does it work? How does the process work? Looking on the left, there's a kind of a timeline of the process. And it all starts with an NGO and GIS-E making contact, and GIS-E trying to identify what the NGO is doing, what challenges they're facing, and who they're trying to reach, who their audience is. Following that brainstorming, we come up with a series of map requests, which are then put into our team of volunteers. Our volunteers then take on a map, depending on their time commitments, their capacity, and their skills. And a tailored map specific to that partner is then bounced back to that organization for them to effectively communicate to whichever audience it was intended to. And through that, they can develop their impactful work and ultimately contribute to achieving those Sustainable Development Goals. So the team behind GIS-E really is inspirational. We've got an average age of 24, so we're really, really young. And we range from undergrad students, first year undergrad students, to master's students studying spatial data science, to young professionals working for the United Nations or Ordnance Survey, and to retired GIS professionals. And our volunteer requirements really are flexible and fit around kind of all other aspects of our volunteers' lives. That's our aim. And as well as helping NGOs, it's as much about what our volunteers get out of this process. And you can see it's an opportunity to develop new skills, learn tips and tricks. Just before this call, the team was in discussion about how to fix a bug on Arc, and our volunteers get exposure to really exciting international projects, chances to network, and ultimately to use all the skills they have to give something back. So I think all our volunteers would agree that they're really enjoying the work they're doing and really enjoying being part of that team. So I'm going to briefly highlight some of the stories from our partners and our engagements. And I guess this is really the most exciting part of the talk for me, because I get to showcase these amazing organizations. So starting with On-Call Africa, which works in Zambia, where there's currently a healthcare workforce crisis. In the UK, there's one doctor for every 600 people, compared to in Zambia, where there's one doctor for every 16,000 people. So On-Call Africa is doing some really incredible work, providing rural health care, promoting health through education, and through delivering mobile medical services. They're a really professional organization, and they're really great to work with, but they won't mind me being slightly rude about them here. This is their Where We Work section on their website. And you can see the top map is kind of low resolution Google Maps screenshot. I think the bottom map might even just be a photo of a physical map or a photocopy. It's not really telling you what you want to know. Where really are they working? How many projects do they have? What the project's called, etc. So, and this is because they lack the skills, capacity, and time to do it. So this is when GIS-E can come in. You can see on the right that the first map, we produced a series of location maps for On-Call Africa for their website. And the one on the right is an example of that. It's really, really simple. It's a Where We Work map. It shows where they are in Africa, where they are in Zambia, but it's tailored to them. It shows exactly what they want, and it looks professional, which is, that's what we're looking for. The map on the left is showing where their projects are and how many patients are treated at each of these project locations. So they've provided us with data, and we're displaying that data for them spatially. So it's going beyond just saying we've worked with over 2,580 patients. It's actually showing where those patients are. It's bringing a story to life. And I think this map was actually, put into it to support a funding bid for On-Call Africa. I guess the last thing we're working on with On-Call Africa is mapping local knowledge. And many of the village locations and directions for how to access their villages, they're all stored in people's heads. And so we've been training their team on the ground. Our volunteers have been training them through virtually, but their team on the ground in Zambia, how to use GPS devices to start collecting data, which our volunteers are then going to use to produce a series of location and direction maps in a kind of booklet form. So that's going to help communicate within their team, where they're actually working. So that's a really exciting thing that's just about to start up now. The second organization is Lyra in Africa. And Lyra works in rural Tanzania, doing some really, really inspiring work to provide girls with a safe space to live and study, giving them an opportunity to complete their studies. So they build hostels in surrounding neighborhoods in rural Tanzania, which enables girls to stay in there rather than walking home and being exposed to the dangers of doing that. In 2018, only 1% of girls in rural Tanzania completed higher secondary education. And there's a clear correlation between levels of education and teenage pregnancy, with higher levels of education leading to lower pregnancy rates. So since the beginning of Lyra's hostel construction program in 2012, 2,500 girls have lived in Lyra's hostels, and there have been no reported pregnancies in that time, which is amazing. So again, a really, really professional organization, really great to work with and a really great website. But again, they before we started working with them, they didn't have anything telling you where they worked, where their projects were. So that was the first thing we did, again, was to produce a series of location maps showing where they work and where their hostels are. The map on the right is a project that's ongoing at the moment. Lyra's putting in a funding bid to a very large international organization. And as part of that, they really want to show the geographical distribution of their projects, but bringing in different data sets to really bring it to life and tell that story. So we're integrating the number of pupils in the schools, number of girls in hostels, village populations and stuff like that. So suddenly you're bringing together those stats, text, images, and you're putting them all into that map. So that's one project that's starting up, and that's going to give the funder a much better idea of the impact of their work on the ground. The map on the left is of it's kind of more of an infographic, but I thought it was worth sharing it because it shows the creativity of our team. But the hostels that Lyra builds they're really, really innovative. They're award-winning and they're green. And they've used text and images to try and portray that, but actually a kind of infographic map style graphic can bring all of that information together again. And I think it looks brilliant. I'm really excited for Lyra to start sharing it. And I really hope it communicates how good the hostels they're building really are. The final organization is Eden Reforestation Projects. And Eden Reforestation Projects is one of the largest reforestation organizations in the world. It's an amazing partner for us to have, being such a small organization like we are at GIS-E. They work in 8 different countries. And if you've heard of the internet browser Ecosia, which plants trees for internet searches, this is one of the organizations that actually plants those trees on the ground. They have teams and they have members of their team who actually do specialize in GIS. But we've identified cartography and an ability to design engaging maps as distinct from where their skills lie as a team and what they're actually doing. So that's where we come in. We initially produced a series of detailed location posters for 5 of their country locations, which were designed to go in their offices in the US to give potential volunteers and funders and partners a much better idea of the scope of their work, the global nature of their work. And we're going to be setting up a new project with them, which I'm particularly excited by. And we're going to start producing a series of deforestation and reforestation maps tailored to their project areas, tailored to Eden Reforestation Projects as an organization. So rather than having big data sets like they have at the moment, and the large data sets you can find open source, these are going to be tailored to them. And so that ability to really tell that story, show the impact on the ground, and not just show it for a whole country, not just show it for a large region, hone in on their project areas is really valuable. So to kind of start closing up, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk about what's in the pipeline for GIS-E, because as I said, it's a really exciting time for us. So the first thing is we want to set up a podcast series and through that showcase the amazing work that our partners are doing, but also how GIS and cartography is helping them in their work. We want to set up an internship scheme, putting exceptional GIS students in touch with our partners for them to potentially go out to work on the ground using their skills in collaboration with GIS-E. Going to continue our training workshops for our partners to train their teams and their volunteers in how to use GPS devices and how to produce basic cartography and maps. And I think probably the largest step we're taking is initiating a low bono side to GIS-E, where existing partners can access tailored interactive maps for a small donation. So in that sense, because all our static maps at the moment are pro bono, this gives us a chance to really become self-sufficient, and an interactive map can give so much more information often than a static map, and it's something that a lot of our partners are always asking if we do. So yeah, and I guess the last thing, the one I'm looking forward to most is going from virtual to reality, and finally getting to know some of the team in person, at least the ones in the UK. So we'd love to hear suggestions from all the people listening tonight, all the members of BCS, of NGOs that you think would benefit from our work. We're still at a stage when we're mainly getting in touch and reaching out to organizations, and we really want our voice to grow and for organizations to come to us as the go-to place to have tailored maps to support their work. So I guess anyone can help in that. But we're also looking for GIS volunteers of all experiences. Importantly, we're looking for advisors to help set the direction of GIS-E. We are so young and we're growing very quickly, and we want to set that strategy in a sustainable way and in a way that will have most impact. And I think Tom and I, we're always asking the rest of the team for ideas and their opinions, but we would definitely put our hands up and say, a lot of the stuff we're doing is quite new to us. So having people come on board to provide advice would be really, really useful for us. And finally, and I guess this is something that it's great to be collaborating with BCS. It'd be great to have people who would be interested to share their stories, share their career experience, and maybe put on some workshops about specific software or skills that they have for our volunteers. So thank you very much for listening. Please check out our website, follow us on social media. That's the only way we get our voice out there. And very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ed. That's been a very informative talk, and we look forward to all the questions that we're going to be getting after this. So, I can see that we've already had a question come in already, so it's we're already at 2 now. So, the first question we have is, how do you decide which NGO to work with? Are there any criteria that you adhere to?
Yeah, really good question. So we have a volunteer within the team whose specific role is to find the organizations that we partner with. So she will conduct kind of strategic searches around a particular goal or in a particular region to find those organisations. And we're always really keen to make sure that the organisations we partner with are really ones that actually have real life impact on the ground, because obviously that's really, really important. And a lot of the organisations we work with are vetted. You know, they've passed certain trust credentials already, so that's a big aim for us. But some of the smaller ones don't, and it's really through that initial conversation we have with them that we actually get to kind of check that we want to be working with them. You know, it's not a kind of blind matching that we do. And there have been organisations we've said maybe this, you know, we will leave it here and focus on others. So yeah, always something we've got in the back of our minds. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you very much for that then. Right, so another question we have: what software do you prefer volunteers to use?
So yeah, anything really. I think that's the beauty of our structure. That there's no requirement to use any particular software. You know, we really put trust in the volunteers to work with what they're most comfortable working with. So that might be Arc, it might be QGIS, it might be Google Earth Engine, it might be Adobe Photoshop. You know, anything that you know. I think that's why it means that, you know, no matter what your experience is, you can come in and volunteer, which, yeah, it is really nice because it provides us with a much broader range of volunteers within the team.
Okay, that's good to hear. Right then, we have. Yes. Okay. So we have a question. We have a word from Seppi, the president of the society. So Ed, an inspirational initiative, and well done. How can the BCS support you further? And I think that's a very good question. And
yeah, great question. I mean, this giving us the opportunity to speak tonight is a huge opportunity for us. So you've already done a lot, which is amazing. So thank you. I think, you know, it depends. As an organisation, I think helping GIS-E get our voice out there is something that's really important, because it means that organisations will see us as the go-to place for this, rather than us having to reach out for them. So, you know, BCS is a large organisation with large infrastructure and existing networks. So I guess kind of having exposure to some of those networks is really, really valuable. And in terms of the kind of membership, you know, it depends. You know, the scope for your members of all experiences to get involved, whether that be a GIS volunteer or an advisor, and, you know, especially the advisors, I think at the moment would be really, really useful. And whether that's something that we do through kind of BCS as an organisation, or we kind of, with our voice being out there, your members can come to us directly. I don't know, but yeah, definitely would really like to have some further conversations with the team to kind of work out how we could collaborate better.
Okay. Yes, I'm sure we can have some discussions in the future, and I'm sure we'll find people that are more than happy to assist in some way or another. Okay, so looks like we have some questions in the chat portion. So I think we've answered the first one in there. It's for, yes, you're not really particular about what sort of software people use to assist you, and so we'll just move on to the next one. Have you potentially thought of partnering with similar GIS orientated NGOs such as Humanitarian OpenStreetMap?
Yeah, it's a really good point, really good idea. I mean, I think suddenly what we're doing and what Humanitarian OpenStreetMap's doing are distinct things, which is great. You know, we don't want to move into that space, and we haven't really found anyone doing what we're doing at the moment. And but whether there's scope for us to kind of take the data that OpenStreetMap, humanitarian OpenStreetMap is mapping, and produce specific maps that are engaging, and tailored to different audiences is a really good idea. I guess still being very small, I'm kind of too scared to kind of take that step yet. So yeah, maybe we just need to go and do that. And if there's anyone with kind of networks within those organizations, it'd be really helpful if you could get in touch, because it's a large organization for us to kind of get in contact with it at that initial stage. But yeah, great idea.
Okay, right, on to the next question. So, okay, really great talk, Ed. Thank you in terms of volunteering. Is there the ability to learn shadow off current volunteers if you've not used GIS in a while? I have a background in international development and would love to help. So looks like you've already got at least one volunteer so far. Over to you with the question.
Lovely. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Absolutely. I think that's the way we're kind of structured means that all our maps and all our data is stored. This is a bit technical, but it's all stored in one place. So that means that anyone can jump onto a map and start working on it. And so that means that you could partner up with another volunteer to actually work together on that, learn new skills, kind of develop those skills again. And we do have some volunteers who, they've been out in the field a while, and this is a perfect opportunity actually to kind of get back into it in a soft way, whilst continuing to learn from the other volunteers. So yeah, would be delighted to hear from you.
That's good to hear. Okay, so we've just had it through there that the from our social media team that we're now following you on Twitter, and and we will look at how we can share more. So that's one step forward on as being able to help you a bit further on.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. So I'm having a quick glance to see if there's any other questions. I don't see any more coming through at the moment. So we've had quite a few good questions, and I have to say thank you very much for the talk there. So if we haven't got any other questions, we haven't got any other questions. So we'll probably just move on to rounding off there. So I have to say thank you very much, Ed, once again for the talk. It's been very informative, and I think there's been quite a bit of interest. So I have to say I hope everyone else has thoroughly enjoyed the talk, and I hope that they come and join us for future talks. So our next talk is going to be from Dan Revene Elson, where he will discuss the Slowways project, collaboratively mapping a national network of walking routes that connect all of Great Britain's towns and cities. We look forward to seeing you all in the future. So for today, we'd like to say thank you and goodbye.